Okay, so we've connected to our database. We know how to grab information from our database. Now we need to know how to insert data into our database. Like if you have a new user who's registered for your website, how do they, or how do you take the information they give you and put it into your database? So let's begin by opening and closing our PHP tags. And we need to include our connect.php so we can connect to the database. Okay, next, we're just going to do the query first, and then we'll do a little bit more after that, but let's just do this first. So it's going to be very similar. So MySQL query, and then inside the double quotation marks, we're going to say, or write, insert into, and then where you want to send this information. So database tutorials dot users. Um, and okay, so after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down a little bit. Now, you don't actually have to do this part, but I like to anyways. You're going to insert data into tutorials.users, so we're putting this information in the tables. What I'm going to do is say, where is it going? So it's going to go into ID, and then first name, then last name, email, and password. Okay, and then move back a little bit, and then you could say values, and this is what you're putting in. Okay, so we're going to be putting in nothing for the ID because the ID is auto incremented, so it's going to, the database will put in its own number here for the ID. So let's say we're going to put in Casey. I've already done Casey. Let's, I guess, just do Matt, the first name, and we could do Cardwell for last name. Email, we'll just do matt@email.com. And the password we can then just say is Jones. Don't know. Okay, and then we could probably move this back up here. Okay, so now this is the code that's going to insert all this information into our database. So I'm going to save this. We're going to open up insert. Okay, so we have that, and we're going to refresh. Oh, before I do that, let's just put an echo out here. Inserted successful, or insert successful. I don't know, something like that. So I know that if it gets to this part, the insert went well. So let's save it now. So refresh. Okay, insert successful. Let's just go take a look. I entered in Casey Johnson before making this video, so if I browse or update, I should have a Matt Cardwell. Okay, so Matt Cardwell, password Jones, email. Okay, so that all worked out. Now I said that you don't actually have to have this. So if we take this out, okay, and then just, you can move this up here now if you want to. So values, but I'm going to keep it down here so I can keep everything on screen. Let's just do it again, but now let's, I don't know, Mike. Okay. Mike D. Let's do Mike and password bunny. So let's see what happens. So save. Okay, we'll run this again. Okay, insert successful. So let's browse, and Mike D should show up. There we go. So Mike D. Now, that's all good. Now, what happens if a user doesn't have some information? So let's just say the user didn't give you a last name. Okay, so let's see what happens. User does not give you a last name. Okay, refresh. Okay, insert successful. All right, well, let's go find out if it really was successful. Okay, I don't think I changed the name, but if it was successful, another Mike, well, no, with no last name D, but it should have shown up again. So actually, nothing happened. Okay, and let me tell you why. It's expecting how many fields? It's expecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields, and I'm giving it 1, 2, 3, 4 fields. So it's not going to insert correctly if you don't give it all the fields. So what you're going to do, if that's the case, you would just leave that blank. Okay, and then I can do a different name. So let's say Jenny, no last name, jenny@email.com, and then Hannah for the password. So let's see what happens now. So let's refresh. Successful. Basically, this is saying that there were no errors. I probably should have said no errors found. That would have made more sense. So let's see. Does Jenny show up? Yes, Jenny, no last name. Okay, so there you go. That's how you insert information. Now, when you're doing this for real, you're probably not going to have this information right here. You've probably got the information from a form. So let's do this. Instead of Jenny, we'll say name, or let's do first name, and then in here, let's do last name, and then email, and then password. Okay, so these are all variables holding this information. Now these are empty. We haven't declared. Well, we haven't declared them, and there's nothing put in them. So let's up here. So if this was a form, and if you knew how to do forms, then you would have first name equals, and let's say you did the form by post, and let's say the name you used from the form was first name. Okay, so now that goes in the first name, and that's what's going to be put into the database. And then you'd have also last name. Okay, and so on. Now, if let's say the user didn't enter in a last name, well, then this would just be empty. Because if it sent over a blank, it basically sent over an empty string. So this would end up being empty, and this would end up being empty. And so when we entered in Jenny, it had no last name, that's exactly what would happen. So here, let's do, since we don't actually have a form, let's do, well, let's do Mike again, so we can have multiple Mikes. Let's have a last name of, wow, blank on names. Okay, let's just make my last name. It's easy. Let's do email. So vchat@email.com. And the password, Jacob. Okay, so let's see if this works. Okay, just to show you, if I press browse, okay, nothing's been inputted yet. Oh, let's also do this. Instead of insert successful, just say no errors found. All right, that might make more sense. Okay, so let's refresh. No errors found. Let's go back. And Mike, Veach. All right, that all went well. Okay, and lastly, let's say the last name was empty. The user didn't give you a last name. Just to show you, we can do Jeannie and no last name, I don't know, Genie and Nanook. Something like that. Save. Okay, I'm just going to show you again. Browse. Nothing's been put in yet. Okay, refresh. Okay, no errors found. Go back. Browse. And Genie, no last name. Okay, so again, if a user, or if you wrote this and you had a form, if a user didn't put in a last name, then if you did this correctly, the last name would end up just being empty, and so it would insert, you know, nothing. It would insert a, an empty string. Okay, so that would be insert. We'll move on next to update.